Hey everybody, it's Andy Cloudy Mulder, your self-proclaimed metal mogul. Today I'm going to talk about Elixir, a British traditional heavy metal band, new wave of British heavy metal band, just that I'm very late to the party on. This is a band that formed in London back in 1984, just as the crest of the new wave of British heavy metal movement was starting to wane. But I heard the name and I'd never really dived in and checked out their catalogue. But back in January, I just came across one of their newer albums. Actually, they had quite a hiatus from the end of the 80s up to the 2000s, and one of their albums popped up on my feed in YouTube, and I was just of the mind to check it out, and so glad I did. I was instantly hooked and started looking around to see if I could find a little bit more about the band and how many albums they produced. I had no idea anything about them, really. And I found that they'd had about 6 or 7 albums, depends on how you want to look at it. And I'll go into that in a little bit of detail coming up. But I also found that all of their albums had been reissued in 2020 by Back on Black, the same year that they put out their last studio album. And all of those albums were available on eBay from various sellers for, I think the most expensive one was about £13 or £14, and they were double albums as well. And I had a little bit of money for my birthday at the start of February, and I dived in. Now, I've done this with bands before where I've been late to the party, I've dived in, and I've almost been overwhelmed by the size of the catalogue or the number of albums I've bought, and I've struggled to identify with individual albums and know some of the songs, and it takes a while to really get into a band properly. But Elixir are one of those bands where, bang, clicked straight away, and every single album I was listening to a few times and going through the catalogue, and just loved everything that they've done. I'm a total convert, and now I've ended up a few months later with all of their albums, and I'm going to show you what they have in their catalogue and tell you a little bit about each album. But to start with, I've mentioned they're a new wave of British heavy metal band. They play straight up traditional heavy metal. They always have, and they probably always will, although the last album was just a little bit different, but I'm jumping ahead of myself there. So I see them, their classic sound is that they're kind of a mix of Demon, Diamond Head, Tigers of Pang Tang. There's a bit of Dio in there, and maybe a sprinkle of Saxon as well. Now, while all of those bands evolved their sound in the 80s and pretty much came back to the old traditional heavy metal later on in their careers when it all became popular all of a sudden, Elixir stuck to their guns and just basically churned out new wave of British heavy metal sounding albums all the way through, which is probably why, given their first album came out in 1986, they didn't really take off, because by that time faster, heavier thrash was in, sleazier glam metal was in, and the traditional heavy metal was old hat by then. And while they did it incredibly well, it wasn't really what the general public were looking for. Elixir play powerful, catchy, melodic heavy metal. Doesn't get much faster than the sort of mid-pace anywhere in their catalogue. One or two songs are sort of more what you describe as sort of full-on heavy metal, but it still remains heavy nonetheless. The vocals stand out for me. They are clean, melodic, and powerful, and when you match that with really catchy lyrics that make the songs really memorable, it's just a perfect combination, certainly for me. So they were really, really popular on the gigging circuit. They got rave reviews. They got a session on the Friday rock show. A record deal wasn't really forthcoming, as I say. I think they were just a little bit too late to the party. So they did finally release their first album, the Son of Odin, and all of these are pretty much going to be the Back on Black reissues. They released the Son of Odin in 1986, which is sort of self-financed and self-released, and this is dripping with classic heavy metal, new wave of British heavy metal songs. But as I say, it's probably not what most people wanted to hear in 1986. The metal world had moved on. But this album, looking back now, is absolutely fantastic from start to finish. This is the lineup of the band. We have Paul Taylor on vocals, that amazing, powerful heavy metal vocalist, clean vocals as I mentioned. Brothers Kevin Dobbs on bass and Nigel Dobbs on drums. Norman Gordon on guitars and Phil Denton on guitars as well. 10 brilliant songs on here. Pandora's Box has absolutely killer hooks. Hold High the Flame is a superb song. In fact, pick any of the songs on here. They're all classic, heavy, mid-paced heavy metal with powerful vocals. Now, Back on Black always, more often than not, release on a gatefold, and they're not sort of true copies of how the album would have been released. So it may well have just been a single sleeve at the time, but I like the way that Back on Black do their reissues. When it comes to reissues, I don't necessarily need an exact replica of the original. I'm just happy to get things on vinyl. If they're a little bit different and they're actually adding additional information with it, then I am all for that. But yes, the debut album, Elixir, the Son of Odin, originally from 1986, as I say, Back on Black 2020. Now, the following year, they were ready to record their second album, but they had a certain amount of internal struggles by all accounts, and the wheels fell off, basically, and the Dobbs brothers, who basically are the rhythm section of the band, decided to leave, which left the band in a bit of limbo. But in 1988, they decided to go ahead and do that second album and complete it, and they recruited a guy called Mark White on bass, and a certain Clive Burr of might have heard of Iron Maiden on drums, and the album was due to be titled Sovereign Remedy and be completed in 1988. Trouble is, it took 2 years for them to find a label to pick it up, and by the time it was picked up and released, it had a totally different cover than was that they wanted, a different title, a different band logo, track order, track mixes, and some of the tracks were left off as well. It was a bit of a cluster. Now, this is an album that has never been reissued on vinyl in its in the form that it was released, and I didn't really understand that at the time when I was a few months ago when I was getting into the band. But the vinyl is hard to come by. It wasn't reissued, so I decided to plump for this little box set here, and as I say, the album is Lethal Potion. Difficult to see the album artwork on here. This is a little box set that comes with 3 of their albums. I won't go into too much detail, but they're in these, it's a typical sort of little set with these little mini LP CD cases with H&E Records label on there. But Lethal Potion, as I said, it wasn't really what the band wanted to release, but the fact that they got it out there, I guess, was at least something. But as I say, that Lethal Potion has never been reissued on vinyl in that state. So I did pick up, say, the box set. Now, you can see on here 2 other albums, Sovereign Remedy and Live. Now, as I say, Sovereign Remedy was the name that the album is supposed to have been. I'm going to get to that one in a little bit, because they did manage to actually release that one as intended, but a little bit further on in their career. They packed it in after this. Traditional metal just wasn't selling when this came out in 1990. Now, as I say, Lethal Potion, quite difficult to find, certainly over here. But in an amazing coincidence, because I was thinking about doing this video when I was researching Elixir, and I was listening to all of the albums and really getting to know them. I bought some records off Jürgen, and he took his sweet time sending them out to me, which was fine. He was letting me know. I didn't have a problem with it at all. But he decided to throw in a little sweetener. Now, he did not know I was just got into Elixir and I was planning on doing this video. But lo and behold, when I opened the package, in there was a copy in fantastic condition of the vinyl, just a little bit of sticker damage on here, which is no problem for me, featuring Clive Burr x Iron Maiden, an OG of Elixir. Now, that artwork is just a little crazy. It has nothing to do with the songs on the album, and as I say, the logo, there's lots of bands called Elixir, so the Elixir logo that they had was effectively their trademark, and they wanted to make sure that was on there so they could keep their identity, really, and not just be confused with anybody else. This album doesn't really scream heavy metal, and the rework of the logo doesn't scream heavy metal either. Lineup on here, we have, say, Phil Denton, Paul Taylor, Norman Gordon as the first album, and then Mark White and Clive Burr on drums. This is an excellent album. I really, really like it. Some of the cool songs on here, Visions of Darkness is an absolute fantastic song. Louise, Llangeran, Sovereign Remedy. Honestly, this whole video, I could literally read out every single song, and I would want you to check it out because it's such a superb band. But thank you very much, Jürgen. As I say, it was complete coincidence that he sent this to me. He had no idea. I had no idea it was coming, but it absolutely fitted perfectly with my where I was and what I was listening to. So a killer coincidence, really. It comes with the original inner sleeve with lyrics, sorry, bright, and just a back side with some credits as well. But a little more on, well, as I say, Sovereign Remedy, they did manage to re-release in its true form later on, but they did split up in 1990, and they stayed split for quite a few years until 2001. They decided to reform with the original lineup, and they had three main objectives. One was to record and release some really early material that was ready about the same time as the Son of Odin, that didn't make the first album. They toured a lot. They had a really good following in the UK, certainly, and they had twice as many songs as would fit on the album, and they chose the best ones that would flow and fit, and the Son of Odin was born. And they made some great choices, but they had a whole bunch of songs left. So, long-winded way of saying, number one, they wanted to record and re-release some of that earlier material that had never been released before. Number two, they wanted to re-release the second album, Lethal Potion, as they originally intended. And number three, they wanted to release some new material as well. So they went about doing this. And in 2002, they released this album, The Idol. They've got their trademark logo back on again. So this ticked the first box. This album has 10 tracks that were all originally written around the time of the first album, so between 84 and 86. But this is these were recorded for the first time for this album. So for 2001, 2002 was so 15 years after the original lineup had written the songs. They got to record them and put them on this album, The Idol. Now, for me, they're great individual songs on here, but it doesn't flow as well as the first album, and it does feel a little bit more like a compilation, but a compilation of great songs nonetheless. Born to Die, Playing with Fire, and Death Dealer are three of my favourite ones on here. Devil Rider as well, it's at a fourth. I have no problems with that. But again, Back on Black reissue. Nice little write-up about the history of this album and how it came to be and how the band had got back together. Great stuff. So that was 2002. So that was the record some of the earlier music for the first time. They then followed this up in 2004 with Sovereign Remedy, what was intended to be their second album, as they really wanted it to be. Again, they've got the logo correct, they've got the correct title, they've got the artwork that they wanted, and this is actually a double album, whereas Lethal Potion had 10 10 songs on it in a completely different order. Sovereign Remedy has a total of 14, although there are some sort of intros and reprises on here. And there are 14 tracks in total in the order that it was intended. I like both Lethal Potion and Sovereign Remedy. I think they've both got their value. Obviously, this still has Clive Burr on it. This wasn't re-recorded with the classic lineup from the first album and the reformed band lineup. It still contains sort of Mark White and Clive Burr. Again, we have the lyrics on the inside. But it's a really well done, put together double album. The same songs off here. I mentioned them before, but really, Visions of Darkness is absolutely my favourite one. Great classic new wave of British heavy metal sounding album in 2004. But there we go. I love hearing this stuff now. It's absolutely superb. So that was box 2 ticked. Now all they had to do was release an album of brand new songs that they had put together. But before that, while they were waiting, they put out a live album. Now this was recorded around 2004, 2005. It was released in 2005. Recorded live at the Ruskin Arms in London and the Horn Reborn in St Albans. Some nice live shots of the band there. Double album. As live albums go, it's okay. It's not the best sounding live album. It's better than a bootleg, obviously, because it's been properly recorded with a mobile recording studio. But I only picked up this on vinyl. I was quite happy to have it on the CD as part of this box set. But once you could have sent me the other album, this was the only hole that I had left. And again, it was about £14 for a double live album off eBay. So I owed it to myself to complete the collection on vinyl, and absolutely glad I did. So 2005 Elixir Live. Features songs from Son of Odin, The Idol, and Sovereign Remedy. So on to that brand new album, which came out in 2006. And that is Mindcreeper. Essentially their first album since 1990. So box number 3 ticked. And this one gets better and better every single time I hear it. Songs like Hot Metal. It's a song about metal. It kind of reminds me of Judas Priest's Ram It Down, even though it sounds nothing like it. It's just because it's a song about gratuitous song about metal, heavy metal, over and over again. It's a great example of a catchy song that they've done with a repetitive chorus that just sticks in your mind literally over and over again. Rescue My Soul. It's slow and moody, and it builds up to a crunchy epic heavy metal song. A great example of the range of Paul Taylor's capabilities. This has got songs that make you want to do that heavy metal claw in the choruses. Iron Hawk, maybe their most epic heavy metal song in terms of guitar solos, and Athenian Glory. Wow, possibly my favourite Elixir song, and probably the best song I have heard that I haven't heard before this year. It's eppy, it's catchy, and it has that claw-inducing chorus to it. It's absolutely brilliant. I really do love this album. Picture of the band. Now, I'm not showing anything in these. They're all black vinyl, and back in black are always just generally black vinyl, black inner sleeve, no inners as such other than marketing gumph that comes with it. So that was Mindcreeper in 2006. In 2010, now this is the album that popped up on YouTube that piqued my interest, and that's All Hallows Eve. Now, they may have hated the artwork on Lethal Potion, but they went back to... They didn't blame the artist because he was just doing what the record label had told him, but they obviously liked his work enough to go back to him and get him to do the artwork on All Hallows Eve as well. Another great slab of heavy metal. Songs to check out on here. Daughters of the Moon. The Spell is actually one of their fastest and heaviest songs, and Midnight Messiah, first track on side B, is just really crunchy and heavy. The album that started it for me. Absolutely great, from 2010. Now, it was another 10 years between that and them releasing their latest albums. They've had quite a few career breaks as they've gone along, and no doubt as part of their Back on Black reissue that they negotiated something to release a new album as well. And they did that with Voyage of the Eagle. Now, this is a little bit of a departure from that classic new wave of British heavy metal sound. It sounds more modern, so it's not old school new wave of British heavy metal, but it's still kind of classic traditional heavy metal, a little bit more melodic, maybe richer sound, better production. It's a concept album as well, of sorts. It's the story of the Voyage of the Eagle, which is probably this ship here, so you can tell it doesn't particularly end well. Drink to the Devil is a song about drunken sailors talking about a treasure map that then gets stolen, and then the people who stole the treasure map went on and press ganged a crew. Then Horizons is about setting sail on the voyage and the hopes and dreams along with getting the treasure. The Siren Song, they get distracted by some sirens. Sail On, song about the monotony of the open ocean. Then Onward Through the Storm, yep, they hit a storm, and then there's a mutiny. Then Almost There, they're nearly at the island. Whisper on the Breeze is all about the bitter disappointment when they actually get there and there's no treasure to be found at all. No spoilers, it's okay. Well, it is a spoiler actually, but never mind. And then Evermore is really about the doomed sail home, which ultimately ends in a score of Sirens 1, Sailors 0. Slightly different lineup on here. Dobbs is not on bass. They've recruited Luke Fabian on bass for this one. And I say it's a slightly different sound. As it being a concept album, the songs have to match the story and the theme throughout. So it's different sort of pace changes. Again, same artist as Lethal Potion and All Hallows Eve. And this is the only album, I will show this one. It's the only one of the Back on Black ones that I've got that isn't black vinyl. And I don't know if it's a coincidence, but it's the only one that's got a significant kind of warp in it. I don't know if coloured vinyl is, or certainly the coloured vinyl that they've used is more susceptible to a warp, but it doesn't skip, it just wobbles a wee bit. But yes, so there we have it. That's my full and complete Elixir collection on vinyl. Great band, please do check them out if you don't already. Especially if you're a big fan of new wave of British heavy metal or straight up traditional heavy metal, I think you'll find something in there that you will like. Now, just before you go, as I say, I bought this box set originally because I didn't think I would get hold of a copy of Lethal Potion, the original version, on vinyl. But thanks to Jürgen, I did. I already had Sovereign Remedy on vinyl, and I picked up Elixir live on vinyl, as you saw, just to complete the collection. So now I don't really need this one. So contest time for you. And I want to give one of you people a chance to win it. You don't have to make a video. This is all about just leaving a comment. Let me show you what you'll get. There's the box with all the track listings for the 3 albums. You get the original or first release of Lethal Potion on CD. You get the intended version of that, Sovereign Remedy, and the live album from 2005. Also, it comes with this little poster. Well, it's a little collage poster of shots from the band throughout the years, and the write-up in here is absolutely superb. Gives a fantastic history of the Lethal Potion album, Sovereign Remedy, how that came to be, how they actually got to be able to release that as they originally intended. And that all comes together in this nice little box. Condition is pretty damn good. And if you want to win a copy of this, all you have to do is in the comments, in your comment, you don't even have to add a sentence, it's just add the 2 words, space between them, hot metal. If you do that, I will use a YouTube comments picker to pick out a comment that has hot metal in, and the winner will get this. No restrictions on where I post it in the world. It's just a CD. It's quite light. Postage isn't going to be that much. But I've no need for this now. I have them all on vinyl. And I would like to pass this on to a good home so you too could discover the magic that is Elixir. So don't forget, in your comment, just add the words hot metal. It could be right at the end. You could put it as part of a sentence. Doesn't really matter as long as I can find it and pick it up with that comment picker. Thanks for watching. If you know Elixir, let me know in the comments below what your favourite album is, or if you check them out as a result of watching this video, let me know what your favourite tracks are and favourite albums are of the band. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again soon. Cheers.